Thank you very much for staying and welcome back to the marketplace. Now, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair is advocating the breakdown of trade barriers between Africa and Western markets. According to Mr. Blair, an implementation of this policy which will strengthen African economies in the area of trade. Speaking at a press briefing under the auspices of the Institute of Economic Affairs, he also noted the ultimate success of African countries lies in the hands of Africa.
The Ghanaian people are respected people. This country has huge potential. It's got resources that it can develop and exploit. And what is necessary is that it sets the country on the right path now to take the difficult decisions and to improve the lives of people. And if we can help from the governance initiative in any way with that process, we will. But I'm very confident about Ghana. I think the Ghanaian people should be confident about the country. And right now is the moment for understanding that potential and developing it, and knowing that whatever the challenges, there is a genuine opportunity if the correct decisions are taken and the right focus is there. Aid is important. And as I say, when I was Prime Minister, we trebled aid. But today you can learn the lessons of good governance from around the world. You know, for example, if you're trying to bring in investment, you need a minimum of bureaucracy, you need transparent rules, you need to make sure that you're fighting things like corruption, you need to make sure that you're developing the infrastructure so that business can come in. These are lessons that around the world where they're applied, countries succeed. And yes, of course, you've got to open up Western markets as well. And actually, Britain, which is still part of the European Union as we speak, you know, we have been advocating within Europe a much more open approach to African trade. So yes, of course, you need to knock down those trade barriers with the West. But by the way, you also need to knock down some of the trade barriers, tariff and non-tariff, between the neighboring countries. You know, there's so much more that could be done in the trade that goes across this part of Africa. So all of these things, what I'm saying is we kind of know what we should do. The challenge is doing it. And whatever sector you're talking about, industrialization, the power sector, agriculture, the great thing is to learn the best lessons from around the world, what's working, what's not.
Now, the Private Enterprise Federation, PEF, has organized a post-budget analysis at GIMPA in Accra. Present were the Minister of Planning, Professor Jan Bafo, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Alan Chemanting, who was also there. We emphasized government's resolve to implement the one district, one factory policy, with the private sector playing a lead role.
The implementation of the program has already started. I mean, in the sense that we've talked today about companies or individuals that are interested in participating, let's say, in the One District, One Factory initiative. We've given an indication as to the operational guidelines for becoming part of this. They will publish this on a website and so on and so forth. But then the key to the success of this program is for the private sector to take advantage of the initiative. We've made it clear that this is not government establishing enterprises. This is government supporting the private sector to initiate and establish these enterprises. And so we can only facilitate, but the initial action must also come from the private sector.
In a quick sum, what are some of the modalities that you explained earlier that we need to, that would aid the establishment of these districts in terms of the pure modalities?
Well, we've said, for example, that any individual or group of individuals or corporate entity that is interested in being part of this 1D, 1F, One District, One Factory initiative must submit an expression of interest either through the district assembly for the particular district in which he or she intends to be part of, or submit that expression of interest through the Ministry of Trade and Industry through the Chief Director. So that's the starting point. We need an individual or group of individuals to first generate an interest. So part of what we are doing now is an advocacy and communication plan to try and whip up interest amongst the private sector in participating in this program. But once an expression of interest is submitted, then it allows us now to start working with the private sector potential operator and then the district assembly now to go to the next stage, because as I explained, we have profiles of over 300 potential projects that have already been prepared. So this is not as if we are starting from scratch. And so once you indicate an interest, let's say you as an individual, if you come to me now, that following from what government is saying, I want to promote one district factory in my district, then of course that's your expression of interest. Then you give us the opportunity now to start working with you to inform you about the opportunity, because we have all the profiles in each district.
What about funding as well? Who brings in the capital? Are there going to be any exemptions as well? So at a time when there are caps being put on tax exemptions.
Well, I'm afraid this is not connected to the tax exemptions. What we've said today on this platform is that first, for you to qualify to participate in this program, your particular project or your intended project must have an investment size of between $1 million to $5 million. We've already made that clear.
You're still live on the marketplace, and hundreds of workers of the Ghana National Fire Service have converged on the premises of CDH Financial Services in Accra to demand payment of their accumulated pension funds. The funds were expected to have matured after a 5-year period. Group CEO of the CDH spoke to my colleague, but he has joined me. Charles Aite, who was there to witness developments, has joined me here in the studio and to update us. Charles, so what did you observe?
Well, it was an expression of frustration you can see that on the faces of these workers who converged on the CDH house here in Accra, demanding for the payment of their pension funds in cash. Actually, what happened was the fact that, you know, their pension funds has matured over a 5-year period. So management of CDH was, you know, entreating workers that they are going to pay these funds via their bank accounts, but these workers are insisting that these funds be paid to them via cash. So that happens to be the miscommunication between CDH and these, you know,
now, so when exactly will the funds mature?
The funds have already matured as at March, this very year.
At the end of the month?
At the end of March. At the end of March for them. It matured at the beginning of March, actually. Actually. So the payments have already been made, of which I did speak to the head, the group CEO of CDH, in the person of Edu Sarkodie, who told me the fact that we shall be playing a clip shortly, but he did tell me the fact that the payments have been made via the bank accounts of these workers. But these workers are stating the facts that it's not reflected. So let's just hear.
So before we hear from the CDH boss, which kind of workers were found picketing this afternoon? Were they only from the head office of the GNFS or the other branches of the country?
Well, this package is specifically aimed at the Ghana National Fire Service, of which we did have workers there. So
from various regions?
From various, all the 10 regions in Greater Accra have picketed at that very place at the moment. So I think we could not just listen to some of the interviews that I did have with the CEO, the group chairman of, you know, CDH.
One of our subsidiaries, CDH Asset Management, is licensed to manage pension funds. And they have this product, and I think Fire Service signed onto it. And so they were putting some of the money aside. One of the rules was that after, I think, 5 years or so, you could take 60% of it. Now, Fire Service is about 7,000 something. So what we did was, when it was time, we asked them to remain in their stations whilst we sent it through the banking system. A few of them said the banking system had delayed the processes and wanted their monies in cash. So we said, okay, I mean, For those of you who were close by and wanted yours cash, can come to our banking hall and pick up the money. And then we had a flood of people coming in. Over the past 3 days, we've been paying hundreds and hundreds of people their funds. And it looks like the more we pay, the more we have floods. This morning we paid the Eastern, the Brahafo, and I think Upper East regions. But they've all come here to come and collect their money, which is very interesting. So essentially, I think it's just a miscommunication issue. And of course, these days too, with the WhatsApp messages and all that, people have taken pictures. Our banking hall, we handle very high net worth clients. Our banking hall does not take lots of people like this. So when we have 100 people, it looks like an invasion. So that's why you see many people on the compound. So what we're doing is we're processing them 10 by 10 each. And so yesterday we paid 500. Today we're hoping we can pay another 600, and then we pay everybody off. But our appeal to them is there's no need to come. We will send the money to your account at your station.
But their main concern happened to do with the fact that their bosses, the fire service, never did tell them about any kind of deduction whatsoever. I've spoken to some of them who said the fact that their salaries came, this month, and they realized that some deductions have been made, and it's been the trend for the past 5 years. That's what triggered them to come over here.
I mean, they all filled forms. We don't just deduct people's money. They all filled forms indicating that they had signed up to a product. Now, of course, they come in groups and in batches, so that's how we process them. I think maybe there's some miscommunication between their heads of units and them, but for us, we have a genuine transaction that we did with them. It's time for them to collect their money, and we'll pay everybody off. I thought we had agreed with these people that they should stay in their stations. They will be paid because it's not worth it. You'll be paid through the banking system. There's no need for you to come and line up, make a long queue, 600 of you to be paid your money. It will be paid to you. We will put in your account. Most of them say no, they want to take their money themselves.
All right, so that was the boss of the CDH.
Absolutely.
Now, were you able to speak with authorities of the fire service, National Fire Service, concerning this particular issue?
Well, these authorities, including the head of communications, Prince Blair Naglate,
okay,
were there this very morning to have a crunch meeting with executives of CDH Group, and they remained reticent. They didn't want to speak about the matter, but the information I got from who happens to be the president of CDH, is the fact that the point of sales, the point of payments for that matter, is going to be removed from CDH housing to that of the head office of the Ghana National Fire Service, and payments are expected to be done by the end of this week.
All right, thank you very much, Charles, for that update. My colleague Charles Aite bringing us up to speed with developments at the CDH Financial Services this morning, where hundreds of workers of the Ghana National Fire Service picketed to demand a release of the payment of their outstanding pension funds. Away from that, Deputy Energy Minister Designate Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam has been explaining government's position on funding its free SHS policy with part of the annual budget funding amount of total petroleum receipts. Appearing before Parliament's appointment committee to be vetted, Dr. Amin Adam also highlighted he will push for the necessary regulations for an open competitive tendering process for oil blocks.
Mr. Chairman, the architecture, the construction of the law on the ABFA is that you should use not more than 70% for capex, and the balance 30% should be used for recurrent spending. In fact, when the budget was presented and the minister indicated part of the ABFA was to be allocated for the free SHS, I went deeply into the figures. First of all, to find out whether there was compliance with the law. And truly, Mr. Chairman, exactly 30% of the ABFA is what has been allocated to the free SHS. And so it really has not affected the 70% which the law requires should be used for capex. So as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Chairman, what the minister did was appropriate. It wasn't in violation.
So today you see no wrong in using ABFA for purpose of consumption. Is that the case?
Mr. Chairman, it has always been the case that 30% of the ABFA was used for consumption, and 70% has always been used for capex. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman, since I said, as for Anta, is Tamale boy. If he cries at Jeremiah, it will be my own shame. So, Chairman, be sure that we have to see his weight on the policy issues.
I'm only counting.
And Chairman, you can keep counting. I'm almost done. And Chairman, since the minister is here, we have been hearing you about contracts and the review of contracts and the values of contracts. And in time past, Parliament itself has taken a bite to deepen transparency in the management of petroleum resources. What advice would you have for your minister and for the Republic?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately for us, we have a law that provides for greater transparency in the management of our oil and gas resources. The Petroleum Revenue Management Act 919 already provides for the application of open public tender, open and competitive public tender for acquiring petroleum rights, except that you cannot just go and start doing open and competitive bidding, because the law also requires regulations to be enacted to give effect to the broader provision in Section 10 of the law. And so I will encourage my minister, I will support him to take the steps to develop the regulations to ensure that Ghana begins the application of open and competitive public tender. The second one is...
Will you support the open auction of oil blocks as a way of deepening transparency within the petroleum environment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Shifting the focus into the aviation industry now, and as Africa pursues a common air transport market, 19 countries, including Ghana, will fully open up its airspace to accommodate commercial flights into each other's airports. This is part of the objectives of the Yamoussoukro Declaration, which requires African countries, which are signatories to the convention, to deregulate their air services to enhance transnational competition. In effect, airlines get to enjoy a wider market and enhance business. This came up at the 3-day Second International Civil Aviation Authority Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, currently going on in Accra. Sheila Tamakru reports.
As part of implementation of the Yamoussoukro Declaration, Ghana is opening up its airspace to 18 other African states come the 1st of June this year.
The Yamoussoukro decision signed by the AU Heads of States in 1998, and AU has decided that because of the slow pace of implementation of the Yamoussoukro's decision, states should sign a solemn commitment or declaration to fully implement the YD or Yamoussoukro decision. Ghana is among 19 African countries which have signed that declaration. And come 1st June 2017, all those 19 states have pledged to fully open their markets to other carriers of those 19 states. So that's the first step.
The Yamoussoukro Declaration committed 44 signatory countries to deregulating air services and ensure the opening of regional air markets. However, the implementation of this agreement has been slow and the benefits are yet to be fully realized. The president of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, Dr. Aliyu, however, believes the liberalized system is not far from reach.
In the ECOWAS region, you already have all the ingredients for integration. You have the ECOWAS as a body itself. You have free visa travel among the population. So there is already a protocol on free movement for over 40 years. Air transport should be there to support the integration of the region, and I think the ECOWAS region can do better in that regard. But what I want to emphasize is that as an organization, international organization, we are ready to support all the member states in this aspect, whether it is in the aspect of liberalization or harmonization of their rules and regulations, We will provide them all the necessary models which has worked elsewhere to be implemented in the ECOWAS region, but also in the whole African region itself. We need more integration in Africa, more regional movement, not only one directional Europe, Africa, but within Africa itself. And the African Union is implementing what is called Agenda 2063, the cornerstone of which is the single air transport market, single sky in Africa. And we are ready to support that process.
With increased airline connectivity, cargo also presents a strong promise for Africa. According to research though, Africa's share of global air cargo is surprisingly just above 1%. The slow growth can be reversed with the right decisions.
Represent 1/3 of international trade by air, by value, even if it's 1–2%. So because why? And this is why you see the integrators, FedEx, UPS, DHL, using the aircraft to fly the mail, the express mails, and the special value goods. Secondly, you are seeing the development of e-commerce. And e-commerce, it's roughly product coming from low-cost states going to the consumer states and by air. So there's a lot of value. We are in Ghana. We know that gold flies when you export gold. So it's part of the development of cargo. And of course, the benefit for us that we see is that Africa can export goods by air. We know handicrafts, we know seafood, we know gold, diamonds, jewelries. So there's for us a way to improving the trade of African states, and also we know that pharmaceutical are coming by air, specific equipment for infrastructure. So we are here to assist the member states and the population.
But more especially with a liberalized air transport system, the ever-increasing air travelers will take advantage of more than enhanced connectivity. Fares would undoubtedly also tumble.
Competition is good. But having said that, consumer protection is also important in the process of the competition. And we want to see lower fares. The fares here are very high. And we want to see lower fares. We want to see charges reduced for airlines, which is passed to the passengers. And we have policies on such issues, which we expect our member states to adhere to. But we want the consumers to have choices, many more choices. I want to believe that there is a lot of room for growth of air transport in Africa and in West Africa in particular.
For some operators, expanding a much open airspace is not bad news for airlines. On the contrary, increased connectivity will make them more efficient and profitable.
Well, it means that we can go to other countries without any restrictions, and we can partake in their market without any restrictions. So if the liberalized market is working properly, then we should be able to go to other countries, pick passengers, and go other places with them. Well, I mean, you go to a country like Nigeria, it's a big market. It would be good to be able to go to Nigeria and pick passengers and go somewhere else. You might go to other countries who have signed and don't have airlines, so it will be advantageous for us to pick up passengers from there and take them to other places.
Air travel is essential to the prosperity of Africa, as it opens up opportunities for further business development. Fostering the African aviation industry may be a driving force behind continental integration.
All right, so moving on, Gloria Ojo grew up watching her mother sew. It was her mother's hobby, but Gloria decided to take it up to another level. Today, she is CEO of Go Creations, which specializes in interior and fashion designs. How did she break out? We'll hear all about it today on the episode of The Joy Business Van. Here's an excerpt.
From grandmother, mother to daughter, they have one thing in common: they love to sew. It was a hobby passed on from one generation to the other, but Gloria Ojo decided she'd take it up as a career, and well, she did. Gloria didn't start off as an interior and fashion designer.
Growing up, I saw my grandmother always sewing at home. And then my mother also sewed. But when I remember very well when I had interest in, okay, show me how to use the machine, this and that. Yeah, my mother especially tells me, go and study.
But after pursuing her education, Gloria became more and more convinced she would not fit in a corporate setup.
All right, so the full version of Joy Businessman rolls out tonight at 5 p.m. on Business Live. And that's a wrap on the show this afternoon. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Good afternoon.